Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Five Boys in a Business, a podcast where we talk about the business, our family, and the many shenanigans involved. You can check us out on any of the podcast channels, iTunes,
Google Podcasts,
Spotify. I'm just reminded of that commercial where they go back and forth over and over again. Okay, anyway, side note. All right. So I'm Emily King. And
I'm Richie King.
And so we're here today to discuss what's happened over the past week. We meet on every Monday, usually, somewhere around 10:30. We're starting to get back to our regular schedule as the bunker is starting to get relaxed a little bit, lifted. So
the cloud cover over the bunker is starting to clear.
And then we have Harrison on camera contributing his 2 cents for what it's worth.
Yep.
All right. So do you want to lead off with anything this week?
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. That's right. Mother's Day was
celebration
yesterday.
of all mothers and all they do for us.
Right. Yes. So it's fitting that I'm not going to say anything.
Fitting what?
Crack myself up. No, nothing. No, I was laughing yesterday because my mom was asking me, because I got to visit with my mom in her garage when it was freezing.
Right.
I'm not a cold weather person, so I freeze my butt off anytime I'm cold. And so I got to actually visit with my mom and my dad both yesterday for an hour or so in the garage. And she was asking me if everyone was cooking for me today. And I was like, oh, no. I said, I cook. I said, I cook, and everybody gets to enjoy it. And that's how it goes.
I help cook, too.
You did yesterday.
Yes. Well, she's talking about like just yesterday or all the time?
No, you do a lot of the cooking during the regular time. The weekends, I do the cooking.
Yeah. Well, you're a better cook than I am, so.
Not necessarily. You're a good cook.
I think so.
And so I was laughing to myself yesterday as I was making dinner for everybody, and we were all going to sit down to dinner and eat. And the boys, it was just cracking me up.
And isn't it funny? The person who we're supposed to be celebrating with the said dinner is the one that eats last.
It was so cute, and they don't mean anything by it, and that's what's so special about it.
Right.
They all wrote me really cute notes.
Right.
And nice notes and messages, and so it was adorable. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good. I had a great Mother's Day.
Good. That's what Mother's Day is all about.
Yeah.
It's to make sure that they feel special, and we try and make them feel as special the other 364 days of the year. So.
Well, that's what I told my mom. I said, well, they make me feel good about myself every day. So.
Right.
It's no different than any other day for me.
I will tell you though, as Mother's Day dinners go, that was fabulous.
Well, good. I'm glad you liked it.
As a dad. No, I'm saying the recipe was good.
No, yeah, it was good. Yes.
The steak was good, and yeah, the veggies were good.
So we ate Traeger, of course.
Yeah, we cooked.
Triggerized it.
What was the name of the steak recipe? Do you remember?
No.
But it was like marinating this mustard sauce. Wasn't it like a mustard sauce?
Yeah.
And then peppercorns were pressed in, and then this onion mushroom gravy was we used to top it, and it was really good.
Yeah, it was good.
I thought it was fabulous.
The boys liked it, and they ate it. So
yeah, they really ate it. Like there was like one steak left. That's it. Mm-hmm. So and then we made chocolate oatmeal drop cookies. So went off without a hitch.
Per Harrison's request.
Yeah.
And we couldn't make 2 batches, so then there was arguing.
It's so funny because the history is I got that recipe from my mom, and it's taken me years to try and figure it out because my mom would say, "Oh, do it this way," and I'd cook it too long. It's one of those weird things where you can only boil it for so long. It has to be between 2 and 2.5 minutes, and then take it off the heat, and then you add the oats. And if you cook it too long, they're too dry. If you cook it too little, then they're too gooey. So we have a lot of funny stories surrounding the chocolate drop cookies. But Harrison, I don't mind making them, but I don't like to drop them onto the paper, scoop them out into, cookies onto the paper. So I always designate Harrison or somebody else to do that because I just don't like doing it.
Yes. So, but they love them. The boys love them, and then they disappear. Did you eat all yours, Harrison?
Yes.
You ate all of them last night? Yes. Every single one.
I sure did.
You're definitely my son. Then.
So they had all the cookies lined up in rows, and then they were discussing
that's my row.
Whose rows were whose, and that Harrison was only allowed to take so many rows. They compromised on Harrison taking more rows than anyone. Right. They were really being nice and let Harrison take more than his fair share. But that's because Calvin doesn't really necessarily like them,
which is probably shocking.
which is probably a good thing because he's just too chicken to try them because he would actually eat them and then eat
gosh.
all of them if he actually tried them. So we haven't really pushed him.
They're really fantastic, actually.
Yeah, they're
cookies go.
an awesome cookie.
A funny story. A few months ago, Harrison was over for Sunday, and he said, "Hey, make these cookies." So I made the cookies, and I'm like 2 batches, and I was like, "What is wrong with these things? They're too dry. I'm cooking them too long," and I forgot to put the butter in.
Yep.
So, 3 batches in, third time's the charm. We finally got it right.
So Richie's the only one that can make them because at least we can minimize the failure attempts.
Yeah, I've got that recipe from my mom years ago. That's one of 2 recipes I've gotten from my mom. That one and a rouladen that I loved as a kid. I made it for Emily, didn't like it.
Nope.
So I
Can't
don't know
say
what
I
she did
liked
that
it.
was differently. She made it very, I thought it was really good. But anyway, that's it.
And one of my favorite things about Sunday, we always have Sunday dinner, is everyone sitting around together talking.
Oh, yeah.
And the stories are absolutely hilarious.
Oh, my gosh.
And the ribbing, and because it's all men. And so the conversations are interesting, and they're
very masculine in nature.
They're just, it's interesting to see their personalities that they do not.
They don't take offense.
No. To
It's not guys
anything.
act.
They're so willing to share with each other, and
Right.
no one judges anybody, and it's fascinating, and it's very enlightening to listen to and watch. I always learn something.
It's funny because the male the kind of the male dynamic, my little brother and I remember once we got together and we were talking. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I was with his girlfriend at the time, or he was with his girlfriend at the time, and she said, "You guys just have all these. It's fascinating to listen to you guys talk because you have all these inside jokes."
Right.
You keep referencing. She doesn't know what we're referencing, and we're dying laughing over stuff.
Right.
But, that shared history.
Right.
And so it makes things interesting. So
Yes, it does. It's fun. It's fun. So yes, we did that. Last week we had the webinar that I did.
yeah, you did really well. What was that? Was that Wednesday?
Thursday.
It was you and 3 other people.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was interesting. It was a lot of good information, and I learned
700
something.
people, right?
I don't know if they had ended up that many people
I thought it was
watching.
upper 6s.
But
That's a lot, though.
But it was about practicing in these circumstances, basically, or things that you can do to keep open communication and,
Right.
continue to
Survive in these
survive in
challenging times.
these challenging times. And so it was good. I learned some good stuff from the other 3 people that were on the webinar as well, on the panel.
Yeah, I've always thought panels like that were interesting because you do get so many varying viewpoints.
Yeah.
I mean, they had an academic there. They had a DVM who is big into social media. I don't know who the other lady.
Practice manager.
Okay, so I mean, it's good to get those varying viewpoints, and because everybody has a different approach,
Right.
A lot of times. So, I always think those are really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got to do that. That was fun. And
What's fascinating about that too, because I attended a Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago about some financial stuff from a firm that specializes in vet clinics, and it was interesting to get their viewpoints as well. But I'm fascinated with how Zoom has taken that concept and made it so easy to utilize. I mean, you can just log in and listen to a live 6-person panel talk about varying issues of the environment and things like that. I think that's going to change the way people do meetings.
Oh, absolutely. I think that those platforms being pushed forward, in a fast manner, they're basically fast tracked. I mean, there are companies like Zoom that people knew about, but that
I never heard of it.
I mean, not to
Not like
this
that.
extent. Oh my God. Now it's a household word.
Yeah, I'm going to Zoom.
I'm going to, could they have ever imagined, seeing their company or seeing their platform reach as many people in such a short time period? Never would they have expected it.
I actually think these events have a way of transforming paradigms and the way that people think of things. And I think it could transform the way people view education. Why sit in a classroom necessarily if you can have those kinds of environments like that? You can have a live classroom. You just have to be in the classroom.
Right.
And I think I think that the applications and ramifications of Zoom and things like that, and due to these events, will have far-reaching effects that we can't quite appreciate just yet.
Right.
I think travel. I mean, I reference meetings. I don't know why you'd ever have another face-to-face. I mean, just a garden variety, say, update meeting.
Right.
You don't need to. Just log on. You have the documents. You can, go through whatever.
Right. Airlines are going, no.
I know, right?
Oh, gosh.
But it also goes to the broader thing that we've talked about in the past about things speeding up. Mm-hmm. Years ago, you want a meeting, I have to fly to somewhere. Well, no, you don't have to burn up 12 hours and 2 flights. Just log on, talk to somebody.
Right.
It's all live.
Right.
And there hasn't been really a connectivity issue either. I mean, I would think that would be.
Yeah,
I mean, the bandwidth it's not using much.
Yeah, it's been impressive to watch.
So it's really cool.
And we are, of course, getting ready to make changes at the clinic. Going with the stepwise fashion that the state's making, and then us trying to make adjustments based on with us being essential business, it's a little bit different, but I think our plan right now for everybody listening is to open our doors on the 18th for appointments. There's still going to be curbside appointments required for technician appointments and medicine pickups and drop-offs and surgery pickups and drop-offs, just because we can limit the number of people then within the building, which then helps the exposure to the staff.
I think actually it's going to probably stay that way even after. I mean,
I think people will like it.
Yeah. I mentioned, or I went out and ran some errands yesterday and got the oil changed in one of our cars, and they made you sit in the car at Jiffy Lube.
Right.
And I told Harrison at dinner last night, I was like, I like that better. It was easier. Just they come up and ask me what I want. I do. I give them my card done.
Right.
I don't have to go wait in the lobby or anything.
Yeah.
It actually speeds them up because they don't have to come get me now.
Right. You're right in front of them. Yeah.
I'm right there. I'm in and out. And I thought it'll be interesting to see what those companies, the studies they do after this, and say, let's just keep doing it the way we're doing.
Right. What methods do they use? Yeah.
So.
So it, if, and it's interesting because last week, probably, and maybe the end of the week before that, we were starting to get some clients, wanting to come in the building.
Right.
It's funny because the majority of them are all the older clients, and I don't know if they're just like, listen, like it is what it is. We're gonna be exposed at some point, whether it's this week or next week, and I don't think that you can physically keep the door shut forever. So they're like, what's the difference between this week and next week, kind of a thing as far as pushback goes. But
I wonder if that has to do with maybe life experience and, the things that, and putting things in context.
Right.
They can say, I'm sure people can go out there and say, I can go to Walmart, I can go to Kroger, I'm in close proximity to other people all the time. I mean, way more people in, say, a retail environment that I would be, say, just an exam room interacting with one or two people.
Right.
So I'm sure that they look at that and say, the risk reward for me is about the same. So why not just go ahead and go back to something, engage in these kinds of transactions where it feels more comfortable, more personal.
Right.
And I think that's where businesses, we've talked about this before, it'll be a delicate balance between, keeping everybody safe and adhering to the guidelines put forth by the government, but at the same time not being overly burdensome such that what you're doing doesn't make sense.
Right.
If they say, if your people are doing this 6 months from now, but yet pretty much everything's back to normal, at some point people will look around and say, this doesn't make sense what you're doing.
Right.
So I prefer this experience versus that.
Right.
So.
And then look for the experience elsewhere.
Right.
Tandy Clifton said same thing happened here with seniors wanting to come in and talk.
Who said that?
Tandy Clifton.
Oh,
Tandy,
yeah.
how are you?
Yeah, I think that it's very. It's just an interesting dynamic. They must just think that they're just in a different place. They're done, and they want that relationship. They want the visit with people back and forward.
Well, I read an article. It's interesting. I read an article this past weekend about it was advocating for opening things up, and they talked about how elderly people, some of these guidelines have isolated them from family members, and especially if they're in poor health or whatever, that they said, this guy was advocating for the reward of spending that last little bit of time with your loved one, or,
Well, that's what my dad was saying last night was, what's the point? Say I've got 2 years left to live. I'm going to live it like this. He's like, this is like horrible, like a horrible thought. So Tandy, if you're listening, what are you guys doing? What day are you opening your doors back up? Or maybe you guys already have them open, or,
I'm sure they're like us.
Are you just doing just curbside, or are you going to phase it in? We've been talking to some of the other local clinics around us, and then they've been calling us as well, like different places back and forth with, just kind of feeling out what everybody's doing, because I don't think there is any right or wrong thing. Nobody wants to keep doing one thing too long, but don't want to be negligent one direction, and that was my point to my doctors, was that you have inherent risk when you're, we've talked about that, like when you're in a room, there's no reason to not open the doors. There's just by nature, that is one of the things that you preach quite frequently, is that you have inherent risk in the room. You had it before this ever happened,
Right.
with all these other infectious diseases that people can give to one another. So, what's different now? Were we not concerned about the 70-year-old coming in and giving him influenza when I worked through influenza B? Was I just like, meh? I mean, so like what's, now I think it's definitely made everybody aware that maybe you shouldn't come to work when you're sick.
I think,
I think changing
a,
that mentality slightly.
I think a lot of it has to do, some people disagree with this, but I think a lot of it has to do with the media making this, daily this, daily it's like, they've scared everybody half to death.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, is that you look at that and you if it's drilled into your head for 6 weeks, this, and it's tough to step back and go, okay, maybe it's not exactly like they're making it out to be. Maybe, but it's tough. And I think it'll take time for that thought, that paradigm to kind of fade away.
Well, and I think people for so long, the mentality was you work, even if you are sick, you work because you're a hard worker, because you should be on your deathbed if you're not going into work. That's the only thing that should keep you from going into work. And same thing with school. We've said that before, where you're basically penalized for missing school because you're sick. The amount of work that they make you do or they send home with you because you missed, they don't, and that's not anybody's fault other than that's just the system.
Sure.
But those things take into account. So the parent is going, I can't do all this makeup work. So go to school so that at least if you're going to come home, you've only got half.
You thought that before distance learning.
You've got half as much to bring home now.
Right.
But oh my God, if you missed 2 days, because you got a fever and you can't go back, so I know people are pushing through, or historically we're pushing through illness in order to stay current or stay, in good standing, or, all of these things. And I think that's probably been reevaluated at this point.
Not this guy. I was never motivated by the perfect attendance award. I just didn't care. Whatever.
Not perfect attendance, but just by creating more work for yourself than if, I think people looked at it and said, I would just rather, like I did when I was in high school, or college, I was like, I'd rather just suffer through it and be miserable while I'm there than to do all the makeup work.
Really?
If I wasn't there.
See, I never got sick
that
in
was the
college,
worst
really.
evil. I was picking my poison. Feel bad when I was at school and just make it through. You'll be fine because you're going to miss practice, or you're going to miss this, or you're going to miss, you know.
Tandy said we will continue curbside the rest of May.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking May is the sweet spot for a lot of people. They like getting to the beginning of June.
Right.
That seems to be a really common theme.
Right.
Doing either what we're doing or waiting till June 1st, basically.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. It's funny you mentioned that about makeup work, because I know in our experience, I think Calvin was sick for 2 or 3 days recently, like maybe this past year, and I had so much work I was like, I'm never gonna get all this done. Forget it. Oh, we lost it. Sorry.
No, it is. It's hard, and the poor teachers, they don't.
It's not their fault. I get it. That's the system they're having to work under.
Yeah.
But still, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. Had some funny. Speaking of school, some funny high school graduation things that they're doing.
Oh yeah, very clever. People are really using resources well.
Well, I didn't realize that. There's a girl that I went to high school with. She was a couple years ahead of me, but I'm friends with her on Facebook, and she had basically put on there just an open, basically complaint to the high school where her son is graduated from this year in Knoxville, and she said, just send us the cap and gown, we'll just do something at home, because this is silly what they're doing. And when she explained what they were actually doing for commencement, I was like, that is silly. Just why? I had to read it, and I was like, how many kids are actually going to show up and do this? This is kind of dumb, where you basically walk across the football field alone after they call your name, and you're in your car till they call your name. You walk across the field, get your diploma, get in your car, and leave. And I'm like, this is, I guess they're going to live stream it. All right. Great. Super. Same experience.
Oh, gosh.
It's so funny. So
they've come up with some clever ones, though.
No, they've. We saw one where they did a drive-in.
Yeah, drive-in.
Everybody's there, and they call your name. You go up and come back. Get in your car.
Yeah, or speedways where they get to go across the bricks.
Okay,
that's really cool.
I will say this though. Usually, when you go to a commencement, event, you're there to see one, maybe two people.
Right.
If big classes, it's going to take forever.
Well, that's what my parents and I were talking about yesterday. Was that like Speedway can do that. They got 200 students.
Right.
Like, can you imagine 1,500 people
No thanks. We'll
driving
skip.
across the?
You go to your kid and go, I'll give you $1,000.
This is gonna take 8 hours. Yeah, no, I think that, depending on the community, they can pick some really clever things, or
Right.
Garen just postponed theirs till July. So right now we don't know what the.
I think they're doing prom in July too, right?
Yeah, they're doing it all within 1 week in July.
How are they gonna have prom? What do you like? Go dance? Get out of your car and dance?
I don't know what's
alone?
going to happen. I think they're thinking by July 4th, everything's going to be back to normal. Now, they're probably going to change. All those things may change, and they haven't put out the guidelines for holding those events. How many people can be, meaning
no, they
Garen
said-
itself.
Well, they said, yeah. I mean, I was about to say, I thought after July 4th, I thought it was, groups of over 250, which
Right.
basically lifts the limit.
I thought it was 500
I wasn't, okay, maybe
or
I'm
something
wrong.
like that.
But
I
it
don't
was
know. I
basically,
can't keep
it's
it all straight.
over.
I keep having to go reread it over and over and over again.
Right.
So,
I keep thinking, I just want to be able to snap my fingers and get to July 5th. Be done.
like, somehow that's going to be the magical number.
Right.
Oh,
So yeah,
gosh.
this has definitely been an experience. Boy, I tell you, if you can make it through this, then you can save an asteroid headed our way. I think you're okay.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting theme for our particular industry, because I think the industry itself is very insulated. If you do things and do them well and do them correctly, your business as an entity, meaning in the veterinary industry, I think is pretty insulated. We're pretty lucky.
Yeah, you're healthcare, but you're not human healthcare.
Right.
So it's that kind of walking that fine line between,
Yeah.
and your client base is very diverse and spread out. So it's it's absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of industries getting
Killed.
destroyed. I mean, literally. I think that there's some industries that where this people aren't going to reopen. You just can't.
Yeah.
Restaurants for one. I do think someone mentioned this, a guy named John Pugliano I listened to, he's an investment guy, and he said a lot of this stuff, you hear about bankruptcies like J. Crew, I think JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, some of the big box retailers. He said a lot of that's just it's sad, but it just accelerates. That we're having within 18 months anyway.
Right.
It's just pulling a lot of that forward. So I mean, to the extent that that's happening, and some of these businesses were kind of walking on a knife's edge already, and then something bad happens, and
Yeah.
that's it. So
I was laughing because one of our local restaurants, Wolfie's, is doing
oh yeah,
the curbside pickup, and I drove past it. I don't know what day it was, Thursday, and they had a table set up. They had alcohol outside, and I was laughing because I'm like, whenever would this be okay that you could
Right.
drive up, get a drink, and drive off? I'm like, can you just
Yeah.
get back in line and just keep
I know,
going
keep going.
around and around, and then park your car in the parking lot?
right.
I was like,
Indiana doesn't allow happy hour, but
but we're
equate
allowing
happy hour.
curbside alcohol consumption. And so I'm sure there's some rule like you have to take it home, or you have to take it home.
You can't open it. Oh, okay, go on. Get
But
right on
I was
that.
laughing because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's interesting what the situations will then allow for. So
Well, people adapt, and I think that's what's so fascinating about this whole thing is that people
Yeah.
adapt. I mean, you've got all these instances out in Texas and these other places where like you can come arrest me. I'm opening up, and we're gonna
Right.
adapt, and we're gonna take our business and conform based
Right.
upon these guidelines. But I'm gonna adapt so I can survive.
Yeah.
Which is a hallmark, just like you're talking about the drinks. They said, "Hang on, no one tells us not to."
right. Yeah,
So-
it was funny. So Harrison had a topic he wanted to talk about on the podcast today.
What? All right.
Dreams, isn't that what you
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to talk
dreams.
about?
Yes, I did have a. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. Yes, I did have a pretty weird dream last night. I
what?
felt like I slept for an eternity as well, which is good. So I'm gonna tell this to the best of my recollection. Okay. At least in my mind, it feels long. When I talk about it, it might feel like it might be like a minute, but bear with me.
Okay.
So the dream started off with it's me, my friend Max, and Casey. Okay.
Oh no.
Me, Max Lazera, Casey Dunn. Okay, two of my best friends for years and years. For whatever reason, we have a mission to how do I describe this? To cross a border. Okay, I don't know why. Okay, but that was what was in the
Which
dream.
border?
I don't know, just a border. Okay.
Okay, so you're going to another country.
Okay.
You're crossing a border.
Well, it's not
That's
necessarily
Canada or Mexico.
That's a goal of your guys?
It's not necessarily that type of border, but like it's into like a different type of community per se. Because it's not like I'm crossing into a different state. It's like or into a different country or a different state. I'm going into like a different community per se.
Okay.
All right. So it's like crossing from Carmelin to Westfield, something like that. Okay.
Okay.
So our goal is to cross into this community per se, but it's super dangerous and we're not wanted there. Okay. So we end up getting across to the community.
Kind of
like your houses, your own houses. Okay, keep going.
We get to the community very sneakily, and we take these like really disgusting sewers and whatnot, right?
Good Lord.
And
What are you like? Is this Shawshank Redemption? What's going on?
we get there, okay, but the problem is that Casey and Max somehow get kidnapped in like during all of this, and it's like super scary. I don't fully remember how they get kidnapped, but I remember like it being like really scary and like them, you know, crying out for help and like me not being able to help. And of course I get away, okay, and I meet a guide because I'm going back to like our community, so I'm going over the border again to escape. And so I meet a guy down in the sewers, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how to get back to where we were. And he's like, no, I got you. And so somehow the sewers are even more disgusting than the first time we went through them. And we get back, and the guy was like, oh yeah, like, you know, here you go, like here's some money for your trouble, like, you know, you're gonna be able to get your friends back. I was like, okay. And then that's when the dream ended.
It's like taking
my
the male
gosh.
version.
Yeah, exactly. So did you wake up like
I woke up and I had to pee, and I was like, that's why I woke up.
Well, there's that.
No, that's why I woke up, but it was very, very weird. It was probably one of the weirder dreams I've had in a while.
oh goodness.
My dreams usually don't have, I mean, they don't follow any logical.
No, mine
They're all
neither.
over the place. Like it's, you know, sometimes people close to me are in them, sometimes not. Sometimes I don't even know who the people are, and it's so funny because I'll wake up and remember them, but then within a little, you know, half an hour, I can't remember
Right.
what, you know, what they are, you know, what happened. Some things are really vivid. I mean, I've had funny story, inside story. One morning or whether I was laying in bed or I woke up or something, and Emily starts kind of shifting around, and she just yells out. I was like, "What the heck?" Remember?
Oh yeah.
You said you had a dream where I was driving and I didn't
A
stop.
car, yeah, and you wouldn't stop. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you were gonna crash. You're gonna crash us.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. You ever like sleep so hard, or this happened the other day. You came and woke me up, and you wake up out of a dream, and you're just in a haze for like half an hour. You're dreaming hard, and then someone wakes you up, and you get out of bed, and you're like, oh, you know, kind of like when you take an afternoon nap, an afternoon nap too long, and then you wake up and you're half dead.
And you're yeah, exactly.
You're like, I just want to go back to sleep. Thanks. So yeah, but anyway, we were talking earlier before the podcast about everybody obviously dreams, but I remember in college I did a paper on him, learned about night terrors and nightmares and things like that, and how it's kind of your people have posited that your mind's way of blowing off steam, and if you don't do that, like they draw a distinction between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, and how that's kind of your subconscious mind blowing, you know, relaxing, basically going down to the base level.
Right.
And I've heard other people talk about that too, from an evolutionary standpoint, how, you know, dreams and, you know, myths and things like that evolved to help us survive in the real world, you know, that mystery basically. Because I mean, dreams are, it's still a mystery. I mean, you don't understand you know, why you're dreaming, dreaming,
right.
You know, so.
Well, it reminds me of that show, that Evil show that we watched.
Right.
Yeah, where they have those weird dreams and
she's having, you know, but it's not real, but it sure feels real.
Right.
You know, and then you wake up and yeah. So we've all had dreams like that where you wake up, you're in a dream and it's either terrifying or something catastrophic's happening, and you wake up and you have that moment of terror and you're like, oh, okay, you're right.
yeah,
It's not really.
It's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it's interesting. In the middle of the dream, you're trying to rationalize what's happening and figure out a way out of it.
Right.
Which is so anxiety provoking. And then you're like, oh, okay, I don't.
You know what would be fascinating?
I don't really have to think about that. I can mark that off my plate.
Yeah, they have them hook you up to like a heart monitor or something when you're dreaming and see when, you know, if it spikes or something, or if it just stays. Maybe it's completely in your mind.
Right.
But yeah.
There have been multiple occasions where me and Madeline will be sleeping in the same bed, and then we'll wake up, do our morning routine, and then she'll be like, I'm mad at you. I'll be like, why? She's like, I just had a dream about you, and I don't like you. I was like,
All right.
like, what did I do? She's like, I don't remember, but I don't remember it being good. I was like, okay, great. I don't know what to tell you. There's also occasions where she'll be sleeping so hard in the bed that she'll, like, start having those twitches.
Oh, yeah.
And she'll, like, and it always happens with her legs, right? So, like, with me, it happens with my arms, but with her, it's her legs. So, like, I'll be sitting there checking my phone, like, checking Twitter before I go to bed, and all of a sudden, I'll feel like a karate kick, like, on my leg, and I'm like, oh!
That's like your dad.
Oh, yeah. Dad would have those night terrors where he'd, get up and out of the bed. He broke the post off of the bed one time because he grabbed the post so hard. I think that was the story. I don't remember.
Oh, my God.
But, yeah.
That's a real problem for some people.
Oh, yeah.
Is there there's some drug that people would take. They were sued. It's not Zoloft. It's something like that. Some Ambien, something like that.
To help them sleep better.
And it was, some people made them have, like, not sleepwalking, but basically that. But it's like, you're acting like you're awake, but you're sleepwalking.
But you're sleeping,
you're
yeah.
not conscious.
I'm sure we've told the story of Dad pinning me up against the wall in his sleep during the podcast, haven't we?
I don't know.
I didn't pin it. Really?
You wouldn't know. You're
That's
like
why
half asleep.
that's why Harris and I would always be like, you go wake him up. No, you go wake him
Yeah,
up. No, you
'cause I
go
was
wake him
scared.
up.
Lisa
I
Sidner
actually
says hi, by the way.
vaguely remember that. And I thought, I think it was in a dream or something. I thought that you were an intruder. That's why I thought.
Lisa said, who would you say?
I said Lisa Sidner said hi.
Hello. Hello.
No, but that was probably that scarred me for like at least through my teen years. I didn't even want to touch you when you were sleeping.
Yeah,
like,
we
when
were
you were
all-
sleeping.
How old were you? I don't even remember.
I would like just like touch your toe. I'd be like, Dad. No, I was young. I was
Remember
probably,
he fell asleep in the closet? That's what
Yes.
the story was.
Yes,
Was that,
I was probably Calvin's age when that happened. Actually, I think maybe a little bit older.
Was it the
than
Edinburgh
that.
house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember I walked into your room, and it was like super late at night. I couldn't sleep. Walked into your room. Usually, what I would do was I'd go to Mom, and I'd be like, "Hey, Mom." Like, hello, Mom.
Yeah,
And
your
she
mother
didn't-
is a very light
and
sleeper.
And if she didn't wake up, I knew we were in trouble. So I went over to Dad, and I took a risk. And I was like, Dad, hello? Obviously, the risk didn't pay off because Dad jumped out of his bed, pinned me up against the wall. Like, he grabbed my neck, like, pinned me up against the wall. He was like, what are you doing? Like, what do you want? I was like, what? I was like, Dad! Like, imagine an 8 or 9-year-old Harrison, like, with his hands up. Like, Dad, it's me, Dad! Dad! Like,
gosh.
It was very, very funny. I look back on it. It was funny at the time. And then Dad was like, what? All right, like, whatever. And just, like, went to the bathroom, like, took a pee, and then went back to bed. And I, like, went back to bed, like, I definitely
Worse
couldn't. Yeah.
Worse than before.
Well, that's
huh?
one way to keep you out of the coming to
know,
bug us in the
right?
middle of the night, right?
Like, I definitely did not fall asleep that night.
I've always
after
been
that.
a deep sleeper, though. Except for when you have kids. I draw a distinction between before I had kids and after I had kids, because once you have kids, I don't know what it is about your brain, but you listen for that cry.
Except for if you're sleeping next to me, then you never listen to anything. You're like, oh, Emily's there, it's mine. I'll just go to sleep.
That's not true.
If I'm not there, I can count on you to do it. But if
Because you're such a light sleeper, that's not my fault.
Yep,
So it's the motherly instinct kicking in.
I guess.
I feel like I'm going to be that person. Or the one that's going to go get the baby continuously throughout the night. Mainly just because I'm already up late anyway, and 2, I feel like I'm good at adapting to that schedule, but also sticking with it and being okay with it. Like with Moose, I'm not saying that taking care of puppies are any way in shape or form compared to taking care of babies, but I would have to get up with Moose through the night. And I mean, once I got after a week of it, I was just like, all right, like as you know,
Yeah,
know
but
the
letting
drill.
a dog out and putting them, I mean, I'm telling you, it's a whole different story. You have to feed, you have to heat the bottle up first.
no, I'm not
And then
saying
you have
it's-
to feed them. And you have to
I-
burp
He
them.
gets that.
I
And
know.
they might go back to sleep. But they might not.
I completely understand that. I'm just saying, like waking up in the middle of the night, like that's what I'm talking about.
I'll never forget, because Harrison was obviously our first, and we didn't know what we were doing because he was our first, or at least I didn't. And I'll never forget, we woke up one morning, and I want to say it was a weekend, and we both looked at each other because the sun was out. The sun was coming in the window, and we were like, "Oh my gosh!" And we ran into his room.
Yeah.
And he was asleep. He slept through the night. That's the first time he slept through the night.
Yep.
And then what we used to do, I think, if memory serves, I think that what we used to do was someone would do like the feeding, and when they're infants, like then Emily goes to bed at 9:00, and then I stay up till midnight, do like one of the last
Right.
feedings or whatever.
Right.
but none of our kids were hard. I mean, Trevor and probably Calvin were the two most difficult. But Trevor only because he didn't sleep through the night for like 6 to 8 months, something like that.
Yeah.
But then Calvin had some other swallowing issues. But all the kids are, you always hear these horror stories about babies that just won't sleep.
Right.
And, their parents are, I remember seeing somebody once, and they're like, yeah, my kid might sleep 7 hours a day. I was like, a day?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
No, they always look horrible.
That's why they say sleep is like a form of torture, right? I mean.
Oh, that's the worst part. The sleep deprivation is, when the babies are newborn and they're just at home and you're literally up all night with them. I mean, your body just hurts.
Yeah.
Because you're just not getting to sleep.
I feel like though back then it might have been a bit more tough because you didn't have as many forms of entertainment.
Yeah, but you're still not sleeping.
Well,
I mean now you have. If I'm talking personally, I have video games, shows, movie. Like I have Netflix, all that stuff.
I don't remember being for want of things to entertain the parent. It's mostly just because you can't sleep. So I mean, or like in Calvin's case, he would fall asleep on you, and you don't want to move him because he's asleep. So you just decide to try and sleep. And
Right.
You don't sleep.
And you don't sleep well. Yeah.
And then he starts to move around, wakes you up. So.
Yeah.
I was thinking more along the lines of, if you're up and the baby's sleeping, and like back then, like say it was like the 90s, you get up, the baby's sleeping, and then you have nothing to do but you have nothing to do but turn on the TV and see what's on the TV. You can't like turn on Netflix or anything like that.
What are you laughing at?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Harrison goes way back in the 90s.
Back in the 90s, you didn't have Netflix.
We used to go see the horse race and go down to the cigar bar. Grab a whiskey at Joe's.
Well, I have to make sure that we mention that we have had a special person watching the podcast that we really appreciate them.
Very special person. Yep.
Really appreciate them following us.
Yes.
Cheech Bastard is one of.
Cheech.
We want to give a shout out to because she is the younger sister of Holden's girlfriend, and she has been very Evelyn, and has been very loyal follower.
Yes.
So,
thank you so much,
we were like,
Cheech.
hey, we need to give you a shout out today. So thanks for following, man. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we'll bring you into the podcast sometime maybe with Johnny to talk about how you're
making the
transition to Garen.
Oh, she going there
high
too?
school. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So
That's awesome.
pretty exciting. Very cool. So
cool.
thanks for that. Thanks for following us.
We have to mention Holden and Evelyn's.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Their adventure this weekend. And Holden told us Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, said, we're going to walk a marathon. And I was like, oh, for some charity, walkathon? He goes, no, we're just going to do it. And I was like, okay. So I thought, oh, whatever, as these things go when you're 17. And
he left at 7
He left at
a.m.
7 o'clock and went over to Evelyn's
Saturday
house,
morning.
and they walked
26 point whatever.
Did they make it
miles.
26?
Yes, they walked the entire.
So they walked all day.
All day,
And
10
he comes
hours,
down
I
and he
think he
goes,
said.
I'm
It took him.
exhausted. I was like, because you walked 26 miles.
At dinner, he's like, "Oh yeah, like my calves really been bothering me. Like I don't know." I'm like, "Yeah, dude."
He asked me this morning. He goes, "Dad, look at my calves. Is one swollen? My right one's swollen." I was like, "No, buddy, it's not swollen. It's just it hurts because you walked 26 miles."
You walked 26.
Good Lord,
miles.
you can't expect to do it. He goes, "Well, I run 8." I was like, "It's different.
It's different. And it is different motion. I think over time, like that repetitive. It's a forced motion, repetitively over time.
I can tell you, just as someone who's hiked not a ton, but just 8, 9, 10 miles of the pack, it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that wears you out. Just the walking. I mean, he's going way, way further than I ever went. But yeah, it'll take something out of you for sure. But hats off to them for doing it. I thought it was very cute that they did it, and it is interesting because I told him I said, it's fascinating because you did this and you think you read these old stories of how people used to travel, and you had horses and you could walk.
Yep.
And if you didn't have a horse, you had to walk.
Yep.
So I mean, that was a big deal to say, I'll walk 5 miles to school and 5 miles back or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, so they didn't have running shoes to walk in like they have now.
Shoes at all.
Right. So yeah, hats off to them for completing their adventure and putting one more notch in their adventure belt. So that's it.
Well, should we wrap up
We can wrap up.
for this week? And if anybody has any feedback in regards to the curbside appointments and all that stuff, don't hesitate to send us, what you guys think, what you'd like to see happen, any other pieces of information you want us to talk about or know about for the podcast. We're here every Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So you can check us out on all podcast channels.
Check out our merch store.
Check out the merch
Outfit you
store.
from head to toe.
ASVCmerch.com.
That's it.
And we'll see you next time on Five Boys in a Business.
We're out.